Yo, what's up guys, I'm Mohi and today we will learn how you can carry Nuke CT side with my favorite aggressive plays. Now the first thing we will learn is the glaive smoke. In my mind this is the best thing you can do in solo queue. It gives you so many options and so much space. So it gives you a lot of cover. You can fight silo, you can sometimes peek here. If not, you can always climb on top of it. You can always push through the right side. Sometimes there's a gap here, sometimes not. In either case you can make it up close here. You can camp up here if you want to hold all of yard alone, because now you can hold this yourself. And if anybody was to drop from silo to main, you would see their shadow and you would hear them dropping, and now you have the advantage because nobody in their rightful mind is going to check you like this. They would be exposed to everything else. So this is a really safe spot for you to play. And if you find out that there's nobody here, you can always go for the flank play. So just tell your teammates, hey, yard is empty, and you will often find people here who are not ready for you, so they won't even have their guns out or they're just jumping up or whatever. And if not, you can just keep flanking all the way through lobby and your teammates can stack ramp and A meanwhile. And this smoke also gives you cover for the other side of red, so if you don't see anybody on silo, you can always choose to play this angle here. You can always peek from here. If you have a teammate who has a flashbang and he's a nice dude, you can even ask for a flash. Sometimes you can get the first kill here, then ask for a flash and then get a second kill here. And the smoke gives you cover so you can get away. And this is the strongest thing you can do in solo queue, where you go for the aggressive pick and then get away safely with the information. So now it's a 5 versus 4, 5 versus 3 or whatever. And this smoke is basically the same stuff we talked about in my overpass video, where it gives you a lot of space and allows you to isolate the fight. So you can win 1 versus 3 fights here as long as you can isolate them. Maybe you kill one guy here, and when somebody tries to trade you through maybe this gap here, you don't give him the fight. Instead you peek on his other teammate and now you kill that guy. And now it's a 1 versus 1 and you can even kill the third guy and then get away safely. And you just single-handedly carry the entire game through having space and knowing how to isolate fights. But that's not even everything. If you condition the enemies to be afraid of this smoke, you can do other stuff while they are afraid of the smoke. You can fight silo here when the enemy is looking at the smoke, or let me throw the smoke again, or you can even climb all the way up here and you can see people's heads from here, even here, or you can just hide here, not be visible to the bottom area, fight this angle, and now you can again isolate fights quite well and maybe get away safely even. This is a very risky play that works best when you have conditioned the enemies to not push quickly because they're afraid of your glaive smoke. And this smoke can also be used to get away into secret as well. Some people use it to go into secret from the beginning of the round. However, I don't think that's too valuable in solo queue. Instead, I would use it as a getaway tool. Once you kill a few guys, you can get away into secret safely while getting some cover from this smoke. And last but not least, if you condition the enemies to be afraid of this smoke, then you will be able to play multiple spots at the same time. So what you can do, for example, is throw the smoke. The enemies will be afraid of you and they will not push quickly. And this is where you can go A instead. If they happen to rush A on this round, good, you're here to spam them, you're here to kill them all. But if they don't rush, that's fine as well. You can always go back outside, or you can go down vent, and now you surprise them from secret area. So they are just about to clear the smoke, they are just about to realize that you're not here, and boom, you kill somebody from silo, you kill somebody from red with the cover of your own smoke, delaying the enemies basically. So this is the most powerful smoke in Nuke, especially if you're playing against, let's say, uncoordinated enemies who don't know how to push you together properly as a team, and then this will be even more powerful. You can also utilize the smoke as an AVP from both of the sides, so you can either go for an aggressive play here. This is very risky, but it does work every now and then, or more often you would like to go for an aggressive pick here, and this is where you can get an individual kill, hide, and then you can re-peek. You can use flashes, or you can get away safely with the cover of the smoke, so it also works with the AVP quite well. Now the other aggressive play I like to make is using this deep molly. Just find this light pole and then aim all the way up to power lines, but then maybe a little bit below them, and then just running through the molly. It will explode all the way up here. Sometimes it might spread all the way up here, but sometimes it leaves the enemies a gap here. Just be afraid of this gap, but you don't have to be afraid of any of this stuff. Now I like to use a flashbang in case they are peeking from that little gap here, and you can either right click jump throw a flashbang over main, and now just check this while being hidden from silo. And now you can transition back here and fight only silo basically. This will allow you to get to red, and again you can do the same plays we talked about. You can go for flanks, you can go for whatever you want. Now if you face enemies, let's say you kill one guy here, you kill one guy here, the upside with the molly is that you still have your smoke left. So you can either right click here and get away safely, or you can bounce it off this wall and create a glaive smoke once again, and now you can even keep aggressing if you are feeling crazy and think that there's nobody left maybe, or you can just get away as we talked before, and now you have a really nice shot of winning the round because it's 5 versus 3 or even 5 versus 4 is already good enough. Now you can use this molly in different ways as well, so instead of going to red box every single time, you can push close to main, and this will give you cover from silo itself. So now you can check this gap here, and if you don't see anybody, boom, you are covered from silo all this time. Now you can go for aggressive play, surprise the enemies when they don't expect you here, maybe find it empty, maybe go for flanks, maybe sometimes you can again go up here, and now you're in a really nice spot that they might not clear perfectly, or you can just back off. So this molly can be used in same ways as the glaive smoke, including both the faking outside control and instead going towards A site. So now you can help with any A rushes, or you can use the exact same molly and then use the molly as a cover to climb all the way up here, and boom, you are in the exact same spot we talked about earlier. And now you can try isolating fights, first this guy, then hide. Now you even have the smoke grenade to get away with if need be. Now let's move on to the inside areas, and here we need to realize that Nuke is very well defined on who the areas belong to. So A is just 2 small choke points that the T's will try to get through, and this all belongs to CT, whereas all of lobby, the same applies. The CTs can only push through these 2 little choke points, and everything just belongs to T's by default. So there's no fighting for map control, there's no utility wars like there is on Inferno, Banana, or Mirage Middle, and the same thing applies on ramp as well. Ramp basically belongs to CTs at the beginning of the round, whereas trophy and radio belong to T's, and if T's want to attack ramp or they want to attack A, they typically commit fully to it. Now as a CT, this means that we have very limited options on using utility for our aggressive plays in the inside areas, and instead we have to rely on finding a timing when the opponents don't expect us to push. For example, if there are only 4 enemies alive and you see that 3 of them are outside, then you might want to push lobby, because there can only be 1 T and he cannot hold everything. So what he's probably doing is holding a little bit of everything, and that means he's not fully focused on just hot alone, which means you will have a much greater chance of getting the kill. And the same obviously applies for ramp, where you can start pushing if you realize that there's only 1 guy probably holding you, and he's unlikely to hold you explicitly. Instead, he's holding a little bit of everything, and that's when you can clear your angles properly, and either you will find the opponent here, you will get the kill, or you will find that all of lobby is empty, and this will give you the information that all the enemies are outside, and now your teammates can fully focus on the outside areas, and they will no longer have to worry about hot or squeaky or ramp or any of that stuff, and this will help your chance of winning the round immensely. Now once you have cleared all of lobby, you might want to open the squeaky door and play a position such as this, which will help you protect A from any main attacks, while also covering all of lobby and preventing the enemies from rotating back to the indoors areas. But as always, you need to pay a lot of attention to what's happening on the map, so look at your radar and listen carefully what are the enemies doing currently. If they are quiet and you believe they might be rotating back, you want to camp here, but if you realize they are currently attacking main as we speak, then you need to rush and help your teammate as quickly as possible. You might still get the trade kills or even prevent your teammate from ever dying in the first place. But if you realize that the enemies are just chilling outside, maybe they're camping around this red area or on top of silo or whatever, that's when you might want to consider flanking the enemies if your teammates seem to be fine. So you have the option of flanking through T-base or flanking up the ladder, which is what I prefer. If there could be somebody on silo, don't make a sound while climbing up, and then you will get easy kills here. Again, if you don't see anybody, you can keep flanking even further, and you will get easy kills from people trying to get into secret, from people on top of main, people behind red. However, you can only get these kills if the enemies are still outside, so this is why we need to evaluate how fast they are pushing before we go for the flank. Last thing we want to do is go for a crazy flank only to realize that the enemies took control of A side through main while we were climbing up the ladder. Now our teammates are dead and we have to retake 1 versus 4. So if you realize that the enemies are pushing fast, you need to stop their push, but if they are camping outside, you can go for these flanks, and this is how you can carry as a solo player. You need to read the map, you need to read the enemies, you need to read if your teammates are fine, and then make the correct decision based on the tempo of the round. Now that was all based on you taking lobby control after you realize that the enemies are outside in the first place, but there are other ways to aggress lobby as well, and let's go over my favorite ones next. Let's start off with a simple hot push, and this relies on the opponent not expecting us, so you can only do this once or twice a game, assuming you haven't pressured hot for the last few rounds. So what you need is a single molly, and this will be used to mask your audio cues, your running sound, so the enemies don't hear you rushing. In higher ranks, people have 2 guys to do this. One of them rushes while the other one throws this molly that lands inside the door. It sounds like you mollied off hot when in reality you didn't, and you can still peek and catch people off guard. However, if you're playing solo, obviously you won't have a teammate to do this with, and you don't want to waste time lining this up when you could be rushing already. So what I like to do solo is molly off door instead, and this will stop any door rushes while also covering your audio cues at least a little bit. It's not quite as good as a molly that lands inside the door, but the enemies aren't quite as good as pro players either, so you don't need the perfect molly. You'd rather have double value, a molly that stops a rush. It helps your teammates cover door while you go for the aggressive picks. However, when you do these aggressive plays early round, I recommend you back off after the kill. You already made it 5 versus 4. Don't go for any flanks anymore. There could be more T's holding you, and now they will be ready for your push. Now sometimes in solo queue and especially in lower ranks, nobody will be holding you in lobby, and in these cases you can go up this ladder and kill multiple enemies without any resistance at all, because the enemies don't expect you this early. Even if you make sound, they will think it's their teammates. Nobody should be flanking them this quickly with 15 seconds in the round or whatever, and this is a way to stop the round on its tracks before it even begins. Now here's another play which is so stupid that the enemies never expect it, and that's why it works once a game at most. You molly off hot, whether it lands inside or outside doesn't matter, then you drop down and you shoot anybody who's here. So if the door is closed, it means that the enemies probably aren't holding it actively. There could be somebody with his grenade out, there could be somebody like doing this or whatever, or there's nobody anywhere around here. Maybe they're here and you will flank them. Whereas if the door is open or it has been exploded, then the enemies are probably holding it a little bit and you might want to reconsider. But even then, more often than not, the enemies are focusing like here or maybe here, and they don't expect you to drop down and shoot them in the air and whatnot, and they will get surprised. They will have to flick, and yeah, people just panic and miss their bullets, and you might get easy kills this way. Just do this once a game. It's honestly quite stupid, but it works. Now for all of these A plays, you should learn how to climb the ladder more quickly than by default, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, then check my guide. It will be linked in the description. Now finally we have the smoke push for the lobby, where you aim at this metal thingy here and bounce a smoke grenade out, and this smoke will give you cover to attack from a hut area. So you can see the ladder here and you can climb up before the enemies have time to call what's happening, and you can get a kill before the enemy realizes what's going on. Even if there's somebody holding you, typically they won't have time to kill you, even if they manage to damage you a little bit, and if they call it out to your teammates, their teammates will not have time to react and they're already dead. Now what you do after you're up here and you kill one guy from silo, you disappear. You can either go to this angle, for example, where you can fight the enemies from different directions, or you can go to the other side, maybe try and hide here. Even if you don't get anybody anymore, like even if you die here, you still buy a lot of time, but typically you can get a kill or two before you die. So yeah, that's a useful smoke grenade, and the same smoke can be used in different ways. So if the enemies expect that particular play, you can also use it from the left side here, which allows you to fight this area first and then fight radio, or you can use it from the right side first, which allows you to fight radio first and then clear these angles one by one, and now you can sneak behind them, or you can try clearing all of this. And now, as previously explained here, if you get a kill, you might want to back off. If you don't see anybody, you might want to go for the flanks, etc. Now, if you push lobby every round, the enemies will expect it and you will die more often than not, which is why we want to mix it up, and sometimes you want to impact the outside area from A. So what you can do is you can molly this off, catch the rush as always, make sure A doesn't get pushed, and then you can go down the vent immediately. Now, whether you make sound or not while going down the vent and up secret is completely up to your gut feeling. So if you feel like the enemies aren't too good and you can just run and kill them because they don't put up any resistance, then yeah, sure, go for the running. But if you feel like they're very patient enemies and they seem really good and you don't want to make any sound because they might hear you and they will have an AVP holding you on top of silo or whatever, then you need to be a little bit more patient, and ideally you sneak here and then even ask for a flashbang from your teammate outside of secret door here, and now you can get some kills. If you don't find anybody outside, you can always take outside control from red, always works, or you can go for flanks or whatever. You can always go back in the main. If you find kills, you might want to get a kill or two and then just go back to secret, get back to safety, and again leave the round as a 5 versus 4 or 5 versus 3. Now this isn't really an aggressive play, but I think it fits the theme of the video, where if you are the second guy up the ladder and your teammate already jumped down and you feel like they probably aren't rushing, then every now and then you might just want to check the hut real quick, or even use a molly, whatever. Just catch the rush first, and then never drop down, because now you can go back outside and you can play basically 3 guys outside, or you can rotate to ramp real quick and you can have double stack on ramp. So I'm just putting this out here. You don't always have to sit on A side all the round. You can leave one of your teammates on A, especially if he's a passive guy who always likes to sit on site instead of doing these aggressive plays through vent or main or whatever. Then you might want to be the rotating aggressing guy. And also, if your teammate is super aggressive, he is always pressuring lobby through door and hut, you might want to play with him. You'd rather pressure it together than allow him to pressure it alone. Now let's go over the aggressive indoor plays from ramp. We will have outdoor plays from ramp and A side later on in the video, so check those out if you don't care about this stuff, but some of you will enjoy these as well. So what we have first is a deep molly, where you want to bounce it off from the top of this wall, and when you bounce it lands quite deep and you can peek behind the molly itself. Again, this relies on not doing this too often, and now you get deep information and you can go for fast aggressive flanks, and we are in the exact same spot where we were before, where you have to evaluate where the enemies are, what you need to do. If you find resistance, if you get a kill, you might want to back off and leave the round at 5 versus 4 situation. Another common way to stop rushes is with a smoke and a grenade combo. You wait for the enemy steps and now you can peek, and if they try to rush through the smoke, you just kill them all. However, if you do this consistently, they will learn not to rush ramp, and now you can once a game, twice a game, just sneak through the very smoke you threw and sneak through the back wall typically, and boom, you can clear all of radio quite easily. And again, you have all the flank options. If you find resistance, leave. If not, decide where to go, whether to help on A or whether to flank. Now another thing you can do with the same utility setup, so you smoke it off, you nade it off, you listen if they rush, and if they do, you peek and kill them. If they don't rush, this is where you can sometimes go to the back wall here, then aim at the bottom of this lock thingy here, so just aim at the bottom of it from the back wall here, and now you walk into the smoke itself to the left corner, and then when the smoke is about to fade, that's when you left click a molly, and now the molly clears off radio, and you can only fight trophy room without having to worry about any of this stuff here. So basically what you do is you get stuck in this corner and just throw a molly here, but you need a nice lineup because it's blocked off by a smoke. So this is what the lineup would look like without the smoke grenade. Now those are my favorite aggressive plays from ramp towards lobby, but you cannot do this every single round because the enemies will expect it and they will just hold you and you will die more often than not. So obviously you can just play passively, just hold the door. That's a completely viable option. You don't have to be dynamic every single round, but we can do better than this because we can mix it up even further. So what we need to realize is, first of all, we have been applying as much pressure as we can, and the enemies are probably holding us. So there's probably one guy just sitting here camping in a stupid angle that we cannot clear properly. But what this means is they also aren't pushing themselves. So they're kind of camping, and this gives a lot of time for us. We don't even need to leave hell in the first place. So we can just peek here, make sure they don't rush. Maybe we use a molly or whatever, and make sure they don't come through the molly, and then we can smoke it off, and we can just leave completely. So first of all, they probably aren't gonna push through the smoke because they're afraid that we're pushing through the smoke. They're holding the smoke. Now we can kill 2 of their teammates. This is especially useful if you hear pressure outside. If you hear flashes, if you see teammates on the radar, that's when you might want to rotate outside. Kill 2 guys, kill 3 guys, whatever. They probably aren't coming through the smoke. And even if they come through the smoke, you have still time to get back to ramp and fight them here. And even if you didn't have enough time and the worst case scenario happens where they walk through the smoke and they go down B immediately without any hesitation, even then, you just killed their teammates outside. It's now a 5 versus 2 retake on B side, 5 versus 3 even. These favor you, so that's very rare to happen. And even when it does happen, it's still fine. You guys can still retake B. That's completely viable as long as you get the kills outside, as long as you impact the round positively. And what you're gonna notice is that most of the time the enemies don't walk through your smokes. Most people in solo queue will respect the smoke. You can get double kills outside and come back to ramp, and there is no pressure whatsoever. And now the enemies, once the smoke fades, they will come here and they don't even realize you ever left. So that's one option. Another option you can do with the idea that they cannot plant on the bombs, on the ramp itself, is to just go down real quick. So what you can do is you can maybe smoke this off, catch the rush a little bit. If you don't see anybody, you can maybe nade deep to apply some fake pressure and instead go down. And now you can go through this window, break it obviously, or you can just go through the door here, whatever works out for you. And now you can go up secret. And this is more risky in solo queue because you're actually leaving ramp empty instead of just temporarily leaving. But if you get double kills, if you get triple kills, whatever, it's worth it anyways. And if the enemies decide to go B, you can always rotate back. So the only issue you have here is that the enemies might be coming through the hell area and flank your teammates, and that's gonna tilt your team. So you need to communicate this really clearly, that the enemies could be flanking them, and if your teammates don't realize this, if they don't communicate well and whatnot, then maybe this is not the ideal play to make. But if you're in a little bit higher elo where your teammates at least realize, okay, they could be coming from hell, whatever, then that's not on you anymore, and yeah, you can do this play as well. Now that's it for my Nuke aggressive CT guide. If you like this kind of content, make sure to subscribe. There will be more similar videos in the future, but if you can decide how to do this, you would ideally aggress from a different spot every single round and keep applying pressure on the enemy so that they have no breathing room whatsoever. However, most of the time in solo queue that's not an option, and your teammates want you to play one specific spot only, so maybe you're only an A player. In that situation, mix it up as much as you can without tilting your teammates basically. So sometimes push lobby, sometimes push door, sometimes go down the wind, and sometimes you just have to play the good old camping CS. Thank you guys so much for your support, and thank you for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video.